Sheikh Elohim, and basically get ready to put this down again for you. Trying to get it where the sun is not too much in your face. There you go. I'm reading actually the Holy Quran, the Holy Quran, written by Dr. Malachi Z. York for the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. I'm going to read the introduction. It says, the first thing I would like to say is that this Quran in Arabic this Quran, the way they say it in Arabic, or Quran, the way they say it in English, is not being translated for any Muslim sect. The sole purpose for this translation is to convey as close as possible exactly what the Quran is saying for those of the Holy Tabernacle Ministries, HTM, and who is talking about when and where. We get a clear picture of what this 1,400-year-old text was saying. Many will be disturbed by the fact that all previous translators translated the Quran for Muslims, when in fact that creates a biased, one-sided opinion, which affects a proper translation. If one is a Muslim and attempts to translate the holy book of the Muslims, he or she will tend not to see the contradictions, mistakes, inconsistencies, historical errors, and the likes. One of the best shields for blocking the intellect is a system called Tajweed. Some say Tartil. It is a form of recitation by using chanting and markings throughout the text, or simply rhythm and music, while stating it is not music, when actuality chanting the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, with Aaron and Joshua, Zabur, the Psalms of David, or the Injil, the Gospel of Jesus, and the Quran of Muhammad rhythmically is a form of singing. There are hosts of singers such as David Bowie, European, Stevie Wonder, Nubian American, Aretha Franklin, Negro, Barbra Streisand, Jewish American, Willie Nelson, Anglo American, Julio Iglesias, Spanish, Kulthum, Anglo Egyptian, Ahmed Fal Hassan, Arab, Yassou Nador, Senegalese African, and Baba Olatunji, Nigerian African. They all sing differently. However, they all sing the same words and the same song and tell the same story. In Islam, there are hosts of chanters such as Sheikh Abdul Basit, Sheikh Sha'rari, Sheikh Talalari, and Sheikh El-Hasari, and Sheikh Al-Zar. They all sing stories from the Quran. If they could get you to listen to Sheikh Abdul Basit, for instance, a world-renowned chanter who sings the Quran beautifully, if they can convince you to convince yourself that while you're listening to music is not music, then they can convince you of anything pertaining to this book. Refer to our Pictures of Sin, scroll number 135. The creation of grammar, which gives birth to what is called Arabic Fusha in classical Arabic, did not exist in the original Quran. There were no dots and the likes within the classical Arabic, replacing the Quraysh dialect. The true meanings were lost, which created room for a massive amount of interpretations. The system of Tajweed only weakened the ability to get a clear meaning of the Quran, as so-called scholars removed certain letters, added certain markings, extending certain sounds, and carried sounds over, and ignoring words such as El, which means deity. Those words were being ignored for which means fire. When using a system in grammar called sun letters and moon letters, with certain marks such as wasls, shadda, shakun, gives you the right to ignore what you claim. Allah revealed to the Prophet Muhammad al-Amin, letter by letter. In fact, the word El has a meaning in the language that preceded the Quran, that is, the Hebrew Torah. The name for source was simply El. It was being ignored and replaced when using Tajweed with I-R, having a meaning. Then they used Nur, N-I-R, also from N-A-R, fire, in Arabic. Fire also is said to be U-R. As you look, it says Bismillah, Rahman Rahim, or they write Bismillah Rahman Rahim. In both cases is wrong. They removed the L with trick grammar. It should be Basim Allah El Rahman El Rahim. These demonic strategies was created to widen the gap between the children of Abraham, who also spoke Semitic dialects of one language called cuneiform. Cuneiform was the language of the elders. Cuneiform was a spoken as well as a written language. From this language came Adamic, which later became the language of Ashuric, Syriac, and Aramic. You can find it in Genesis 11th chapter, the 1st verse, and Genesis the 6th chapter, the 7th verse. The whole earth was of one language first. Now, if you read closely, you will see in verse 6, God separated himself from the planet Earth by saying, and they have one language. If you say that they all have one language, you are saying that you do not speak that language in which it's being spoken, because you just excluded yourself by saying they. Then in verse 7, God goes to say, confound their language. The word for confound is balal in the Aramic Hebrew, and means to mingle, confuse, and to confound. This is making it very clear that whatever the people on earth were speaking, it was not speaking or spoken in heaven where God lived. If it were the language that God was speaking, then he would have said our language. However, it says there, which means that God was speaking something else other than their language. Do you understand? If God came to the planet Earth and confounded their language of the planet Earth, that means that God was communicating differently. When the language is broken up, it is broken up into different tongues, which is called dialects. Semitic is actually the name of all the languages that stem from Shem, who was one of the triplets of Noah, Unapishtim, and Nama. That's in Genesis 5th chapter, 32nd verse. Genesis 5th chapter, 32nd verse. Now from Ashur, the second son of Shem and Fatim, that's Genesis 10th chapter, the 22nd verse. Genesis 10th chapter, the 22nd verse. Came the language of Ashuric. Ashur means level plain, and is a city in Assyria. From the Shuric came the dialect Shuric. So you got the son of Lamech and Camelia, and Nama, the daughter of and Shekinah. Aramic Hebrew was the language of the Arameans, the descendants of Aram, who was the fifth son of Shem. And that's in Genesis 10th chapter, the 22nd verse. The country he settled in was called Aram. That's in Numbers, the book of Numbers, 32nd chapter, the 37th verse. That's the book of Numbers, 32nd chapter, 37th verse. The fact that the language was called Haram after him proved that he was a leader, a chief, a mighty man in his tribe. When a dialect evolved, it is usually was named after the most powerful or overstanding member of the tribe or clan. In that case, it was Aram. Aram was the son of Shem and Fatim. So you have Aram from Aramic. Then we had back Shem, right? The language Shem, Shemitic. And then we have Ashuric from Ashur. So Aram was the son of Shem and Fatim. These two languages, Ashuric and Aramic, are the sources from which all other dialects of the scriptures come from. The first set of languages after Adamic, Hebrew, Farsi, were found in one general area which today is called the Persian Gulf. Syriac means successful. The mother of all languages came from Ashur. Arabic is the nearest dialect to Ashuric or Syriac. Arabic comes from the word Arab, meaning wandering the desert. The Arabic language came out of Joktan's first son. His name was Arab. His seed became known as Arab, and their tongue was Arabic. Referred to the first language scroll, number 27, and what is God's language scroll, number 96. You had Joktan, the son of Erba and Hudith, and you had Arab, the son of Joktan and Huda. Ancient Syriac gave birth to what is known today as modern Arabic. The word Arabic is derived from the root word Araba, meaning vehicle or mobile. The noun Arab is a title that was first associated with Ishmael, who was Abraham's first son, by his wife Hathar, or they call her Hagar. That's in Genesis 16th chapter, 15 through the 16th verse. Genesis 16th chapter, 15 to the 16th verse. The dialect that Ishmael began to speak became known as Arabic. It was Chaldean, as his father spoke, and Mishram, which his mother spoke. And Ishmael and his mother Hagar settled in the desert area, the wilderness of Beersheba, and that's in Genesis 27th chapter, 14 to the 30th verse. 14th verse and the 33rd verse. Genesis 20th chapter, 14th and the 33rd verse, which is known as the Arabian Desert. The area that Ishmael settled in became marked as one of the holiest places on earth, and the people became known as Ishmaelites.